Hi there, welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, I'm Aaron. I'm a landscape and adventure photographer based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And on these videos, I try to share some locations, probably not very specific, but just give you a little bit of like an insight into how I create some of my images, some technical details, some tips, the gear that I use, and so on. So here today I'm in on the North Shore again. I'm in one of my favorite little local spots, shooting with the Nikon d800 again, and I have the 70-200 f2.8. And what I'm doing is, you can probably see in behind me, right down in this little location here, there's some really beautiful moss-covered rocks with, I think they're birch trees. There's not a lot of light, but it is a really beautiful scene. And when I use the 70-200 at about 70 millimeters, I can basically isolate or kind of shoot a chunk of this little location, just kind of isolating this little area here. It's really quite beautiful. Yeah, so I'm shooting at f14 in manual mode, f14, ISO 50, and that's pushing the shutter speed up to about 4 seconds. So it's really important to have a tripod with these kinds of images. And unfortunately, there's some issues with shooting handheld in a spot like this. So of course, if I wanted to open up the lens and shoot at f2.8, it would give me a lot more shutter speed. Still probably not enough to handhold. So I would have to have a tripod, but I could bump the ISO right up to like 2000 or like 1600, which would then give me a usable handheld shot, which is what a lot of people will do. But in order to get, a really nice clean shot with lots of detail from, all the way from the front to the back, I need to close the aperture, which means that my shutter speed is going to be much slower. And if I want the slower, or if I want the lower ISO to get a very clean image, it's going to put that shutter speed into that like number of seconds range. And so that's kind of the trick here, is to basically shoot it with a tripod. And then typically I would have either a remote release, or if the shutter speeds are, over, or I should say under 30 seconds, then what I would usually do is just using the self-timer mode. So it gives me a couple seconds to get my hands off the camera, and then get a nice clean shot with no vibration or no camera shake. So I'm going to go ahead and take that photo here now. Try not to slide off on the rocks. The rocks are really slippery. And so what I'm doing right after I get the shot is I'm just reviewing the histogram to make sure that I'm not losing any shadows or highlights. So I'm trying to expose more in the middle. So I found another composition. I didn't actually go very far. So if you can sort of see behind my camera, there's obviously the creek there and some really beautiful rocks. The color of the rocks is just absolutely gorgeous. So when you look at the whole scene, it's quite overwhelming. If like a big wide angle shot, you just see everything, it would almost not have the same impact. So what I'm doing, because we have this nice, beautiful kind of slightly overcast, which is creating almost like a natural softbox, is that I can wait for the light to hit. You get a little bit of this light shine, and then by using the polarizer, it basically saturates the color, and shooting with a tripod and a longer exposure creates this really beautiful, surreal sort of scene. The water flowing around these rocks. It's kind of like this small little square that I'm photographing, and then I might even crop in a little bit. So it's just taking a little tiny chunk of the scene and isolating it and then shooting it in a very artistic way. It's a beautiful shot, so I'm going to grab that shot right now. Yeah, it's a really nice shot right now. What I'm trying to do composition-wise is that obviously that background is the main focus point, but I'm trying to use the creek to lead your eye into the background. So even though I'm shooting at like, 105 millimeters, it's compressing the scene a lot, so the background actually feels like it's a lot closer. But I'm using the lines of the creek to basically bring your eye all the way in. So I'm trying to find something that really works well, so it's not just like a blunt rock or something that kind of stops your eye. It kind of tries to bring your eye right into the background. Yeah, so I found another beautiful composition. I've shot this composition before. It's where both these channels meet around this island. It's just a really gorgeous spot, and it's really good for long exposure photography because it's a great place to practice because you're trying to get that milky look in the water. So I switched over to the 16 to 35 millimeter lens, f4, and I'm shooting at f16, just faster than a second at ISO 100. And I'm using the super wide angle low to basically frame up the foreground elements, which is like these rocks and the water flow. And then that will bring your eye back towards the end or the back end of the frame where those trees are, and then a really beautiful sky. The hard part is to get everything in one single frame exposed well. So obviously I have a really bright sky and pretty dark foreground. So I'm choosing to expose for the sky and then letting the foreground fall into shadow. But then I can use post-processing to brighten that up. If I lose the highlights in the sky, I can't recover those. So I'm gonna go with the shadows being lost a little bit and then maintaining the brightness in the sky. I'm using the histogram on the back of the camera to make sure I'm not going too far one way or the other where I can't salvage any of the highlights or the shadows. And if I need to, I can always take two frames and merge them together, one for the shadows, one for the sky. But it should be okay. The D800 has a lot of dynamic range, so I think I'll be okay with it. So it's just a really beautiful shot. So I'll get this shot now, and then I'll show you the photo. I do really appreciate you guys watching these videos. I hope that you're learning a little bit about photography and my process. And yeah, have a really good day, and I hope you enjoy your time out with your camera, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.